Hello everyone, welcome to the weekly recap video. We got Crackdown.
Crackdown 3.
We got some Crackdown discussion, we got NPD, and we got the Destiny beta.
NPD, Destiny beta, maybe a little Walking Dead trailer at the very end.
Little Walking Dead,
Yeah.
Yep. So, the most interesting thing happening in media this week, in social media, I guess primarily this week, is Crackdown. So last night there was a stream of a lot more Crackdown gameplay.
Well, several games, but yeah, Crackdown was the one they showed the most.
That was the featured one, and that's the one that everybody seems to be focusing on, good or bad.
Yeah, mostly bad, it seems like.
A lot of bad. Maybe it's speaking a little louder than the good. I think it looks great.
Yeah, it does.
I think it's, I think when you look at a sequel, you look at the games that preceded the sequel, and, you're looking for it to look similar to or improved beyond what it looked like before. And I think that's how Crackdown 3 looks. I think it looks tremendously better than 2.
Definitely,
which looks better than 1. So I think that at this point, it's doing everything it should be doing. And what's really interesting about this situation is it's really unusual to see criticism when we're seeing trailers and a little bit of gameplay.
Game's not out, yeah.
For a sequel, the game's not out. Nobody's really seen a whole lot. I think Gamescom is where we're going to see a lot more Crackdown.
Hopefully the multiplayer, yeah.
And it's getting this insane amount of criticism. And I don't even know what to make of that because it's such a unique situation this time.
It's abnormal on one level, the amount of criticism we're seeing for Crackdown 3 already as it's nearing launch, but it's also starting to become, at the same time, a regular thing that we've seen a few times. Let me remind you of a couple of instances here. Okay. So we saw it with Quantum Break. It happened right before Quantum Break. There was all this weird information coming out. The developer was confirming that it was 1080p. He was outputting at 1080p, and they used a temporal projection or a checkerboarding technique to achieve a 1080p output. But all the media sites ran with 720p instead. And then you saw it from YouTubers. You saw it from some of the bigger ones, and then you even heard it from some of the smaller ones. Just a little bit, not a lot.
Yeah, it kind of trickled down.
Kind of trickled down just a little bit back then. And then we also saw it for Recore right after it was launched. Instead of people saying Recore has perfect 10 out of 10 gameplay and control mechanics, which it did, in my opinion, I haven't seen platforming that tight ever. And I'd have to go back to like Mario Sunshine to find anything that matches it or comes close. Instead of hearing that out of Recore, we heard, load times. So now we're not even talking about...
Yeah, that's right.
We're not even talking about what makes a game fun or not fun anymore. That's out of the discussion.
We're looking for nitpicking things.
We're looking for nitpicking. We're looking for, the world's not big enough, and they didn't do enough of this. And
I remember that now, yeah.
So you saw it with Quantum Break, you saw it with Recore. Now it's happening again with Crackdown 3. Which is interesting because, like we've said, it's got a few months before it comes out. We haven't seen multiplayer yet. When they show multiplayer, and if it looks terrible, if the multiplayer looks like it's absolutely not fun and there's no way you're going to want to spend any time in that mode, then that's when it's open season. You can go ahead and rip it apart. We haven't seen the full game yet. All we've seen is the single player. And you're right, it does look better than Crackdown 1 and 2 quite a bit.
It's positioned the way it should be right now. I mean, in any game launch, this is, we're in a logical spot, but... It's not normal to see all the criticism, and I kind of wonder if people are using a new standard, like some weird standard, because what are you comparing Crackdown 3 to that it's not as good as or better than? You know what I mean? I mean, we're familiar with the Crackdown series. It's definitely showing improvement over the previous Crackdown series. So why would it be getting hate instead of just being like, it looks okay. Yeah, cool.
It's never been a system seller. And the talk I saw today, even from some of the bigger YouTube guys out there, was that this is very clearly not a system seller. How is this going to sell consoles?
Yeah.
When no one has ever thought of Crackdown as a system seller. The big system sellers out there, there's 6 of them that come to mind immediately that are exclusives to their platform. Yeah. So you've got Gears, Halo, Forza for the Xbox division. Yep. You've got Uncharted and Horizon Zero Dawn for PlayStation right now, at least in this generation so far. Yeah. Those are system sellers. And you got Zelda Breath of the Wild for the Switch. Yeah. The people that wanted to play these games, and I know several people that went out and bought consoles just to play those games, Those are the system sellers. Those are the people that are going to run out and do that. Right. Nobody is saying, man, I can't wait to get an Xbox to play Crackdown 3, a game that's, a sequel from a while back. Right. So obviously we would have already had a Crackdown 3 by now if it was a system seller. So it's interesting that you're seeing YouTubers now join the mainstream media in their picking on and their bashing of certain exclusive titles and certain companies in particular. That's kind of sad because it was, everybody's always gone to the YouTubers to get the opposite, to get more information.
To get the positivity or the excitement or the, you know, digging a little bit deeper before we get to see it. So, we're not seeing a lot of, this was really cool when we saw this, so I wonder how much better this is going to get. And, it all seems to be, everybody seems to have a standard that they're holding it to that's
completely
from
made
my
up
purpose, brand new, made up, never seen a standard like this before. I mean, think about, like, Call of Duty. How many Call of Duties have come out? How much better do they really look or seem to perform than their predecessors when they're starting to come out in trailers and they're coming out in gameplay trailers? Nobody's saying that.
Yeah,
nobody's ever said that with sequels. It's like everybody's putting this huge emphasis on Crackdown 3 like it's supposed to do something really magical.
It's funny you mention Call of Duty because what I hear every single year from both friends that I have that have nothing to do with what we're doing right now or people on YouTube is this one actually looks really good. I think I'm going to get this color every year without fail.
The last ones, they sucked. We admit it.
The last 4, I agree, but this one looks good.
But this one looks good. And they're praising it for looking how it's supposed to look, right?
Mm-hmm. And being a small iterative advancement over the last one.
Yeah, and so, I mean, it's, a cel-shaded game is a cel-shaded game. Crackdown has always been cel-shaded.
Yeah.
So what standard are we holding it to that suddenly... this cel-shaded game that's always been this way is not good enough anymore. Yeah. Because the textures look amazing. The colors look amazing.
The HDR.
The lines are clear. The HDR is suiting it perfectly. Nice. And we haven't seen it on the X yet.
Yeah, we haven't seen that at all.
We've seen it on the S. And it's, pretty heavily rumored that we're going to see it on the X at Gamescom. So again, it's, we're seeing the improvements that are supposed to be there when you go from iteration 2 to iteration 3 in a game. And it's, it's interesting because this isn't, not only is this not the only game that this has happened with, although it's been a while since that has happened, so this is kind of the first time in a while, it actually seems like it's been happening in a lot of areas of the industry.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of, and feel free to jump in if you have a kind of an example here, but there's been a lot of, they should be doing this, they should be doing that. The companies aren't doing what they should be doing with all the different things that, are being discussed in the media. PlayStation's been discussing things that they are and are not doing. And the same thing with Microsoft. And there's just been so much critique. You have so many people saying, you shouldn't do this and they should have been doing that. And, really like... almost doing a Monday morning quarterback with the things that developers are doing or the
armchair developer.
So it's really interesting. It's like well,
it's really funny. I don't want to get off on a rant, so I'll say it as quickly as I can. But it's really funny because you see that from people that have never ran a business, have never run a division of a business, don't know anything about video game development beyond what they've heard from other people that also don't know a lot about it.
Right.
And so you hear all that stuff from those individuals. It's like, well, you get out there and you make a game and you run a company and you be responsible for a $9 billion a year portion of a company and see, what you come up with. So
well, and really, there's been a lot of growth and success in the gaming industry, especially as of late, which we'll get into with the NPD some. But each company that's in gaming has their decisions that they're making, and they all have their emphasis. They all have things that are more important to them, less important to them. And these are all decisions that have to be made. Business decisions have to be made all the time. And you can't say, I should have done this and they should have done that. Because the people that are saying this are like, they're working off a $500 billion budget. Like, you got to do all these things. Well,
they don't have that kind of budget.
Obviously, in a perfect world, we should do all these things. But they're all choosing what they're doing. And it's working for all of them.
Yeah. The growth is incredible.
It's working.
Year over year and generation over generation. We've talked about it in previous videos. We're going to talk about it a little bit more with the NPDs.
With the NPD, yeah. So, and that's perfect because the NPD actually demonstrates that perfectly. So NPD general results, $765 million in the gaming industry for June.
It's incredible.
594 million was last month's number.
Yeah.
And in looking at the history of the numbers, June is historically higher than May. So we're in line with June, but we're 12% grown past last year's June.
Yeah, that's good.
Which is really awesome. PS4 took the win for hardware, or PlayStation took the win for hardware, rather. But, you have a really interesting situation happening right now because all three of the console makers are in totally different places. So you have PlayStation, who has just come out with, not only is their Pro still relatively new, they've also just come out with a golden PS4 Slim, limited edition.
Yes. Yeah,
so that really helped with June. And then they've got their Destiny console.
Yeah. And also the Pro.
And the Pro is still
multiple
pretty new.
SKUs on.
So there's a lot of
multiple shelves.
Yeah, so multiple types that you can get, both in the PS4 realm and in the PS4 Pro realm, or the PS Pro realm. And then you have Nintendo, who is...
Can't meet demand.
Yeah, they can't meet their demand. So they're selling like hotcakes, but there's not enough hotcakes to get up there in the numbers. And then you have Microsoft, who has made a huge deal about the X. Probably more of a big deal than any hardware launch, at least in the last
Definitely more
5
than
to 7
any
years.
iterative launch that we've seen, than any slight improvement we've seen, coming out with a bigger version or another GPU or something like that.
Yeah.
Those were smaller. They're making a big deal out of this. It's 6 times more powerful.
So everyone who likes Xbox is waiting.
They're holding their breath right now.
They're all holding their breath.
Yeah.
They're waiting for the release of the X. And in the meantime, Microsoft is, in kind of a planned lull. Because that they don't have their new console out yet. Nintendo has their console out and everybody wants it, but they can't meet the demand. And then PlayStation's got some iterations coming out that are driving even more excitement about PlayStation than what they already have.
Yeah.
So it's been really interesting to see what the results have looked like because you have such an interesting divide happening in the industry. The Switch is definitely, so I guess Nintendo is definitely getting credit for driving the growth in hardware sales right now.
Every report we see that,
Yeah, and so growth in hardware expenditure is up 19% from last year. So that growth number is up more than the sales number is up.
Yeah.
As far as hardware growth, and that's specific to hardware growth. So the Switch is driving, it's the mover and the shaker, as they say right now. It's driving all kinds of growth, which would be even probably unfathomable if they could keep them on the shelf right now.
It'd probably double or triple in sales if it could.
Yeah, and then in the meantime, portable hardware spending has continued to decline, so it's been on a steady decline.
Yeah.
It's down 40% year to date.
Yeah. So mobile gaming essentially is on the way out, or at the very least, it's reducing. Kind of like what you said last time about PC numbers. We're seeing those numbers get smaller and smaller as people transition back to consoles again.
To consoles.
Yeah, those numbers go up. You see the percentages go up, and you see the other numbers shrink. So I think that's actually a good thing. Like the mobile units that are out there, the 3DS, the PS Vita, a lot of the phone stuff that's out there that you can still buy some of it. It's just not that impressive anymore. You have the Switch that's able to do Zelda Breath of the Wild, and it looks beautiful on this little screen that you're holding.
Yeah,
that's gonna kill it. Like, why would you buy anything else that's mobile right now? There's no reason to.
Yeah, so Switch has the entire mobile market really at the moment.
It does, yeah.
The mobile market's dying out, but not Switch because Switch is versatile.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting is, they've always tried to say, especially in the last few years, console gaming, it's dying, we're done, it's over. And we continue to see growth in console gaming. And with the rise in resolution over the last several years, we're pushing and pushing. We've been pushing toward 4K for a long time.
Yeah.
And so it becomes, handheld devices aren't good enough anymore.
Yes.
They don't look good. It's not, we're looking for not only can we play a game, but, there used to be a big push for playing a game on the go. I want to be able to play all the time, whatever I'm doing. And now it's like, yeah, but those games look terrible. They're not.
Yeah, graphics they matter, no matter what anybody says about that.
They absolutely matter.
And you're definitely seeing that in the sales numbers for sure.
Yeah, so that's been, that's very predictable, we're like that's dropping. Software amazes me every time I see the numbers on software sales. The gaming industry in general is amazing.
Yeah, software is always incredible.
So software, $343 million spent on software in the month of June. And what you have to consider with that is NPD does not consider digital.
Yes, 74% of all games now are estimated to be digital.
Which is tremendous.
Yeah.
So if you take that 343 million and you include back onto it the 74%, give or take, that people are buying digitally.
1.3 billion?
1.3, almost 1.4 billion in 1 month.
In 1 month, that's incredible. Yeah.
On gaming software. And mind you, last week we talked about an article, in the New York Post about how bad gaming is and how it's, stealing a generation. And in the meantime, it's like, fueling these economies. Like it's one of the bigger industries that's out there fueling the economy. So clearly people have a lot of different reasons for loving gaming and have a lot of different things that they're interested in gaming, and it creates, millions of different careers and hobbies, and it's like it's completely the opposite of what we've heard. I mean, $1.3 to $1.4 billion in a month.
Yeah, that's incredible.
On just software.
Yeah, just software.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, well, Microsoft released some of their information as they do around NPD. They always drop a couple of percentages, and we're seeing some impressive numbers out of just that one division. That's at one point in time. At one point in time, Xbox was less than 1% of Microsoft's business and profits and revenue. And now it's up to about 11%. It's actually just higher than Windows. It's beaten Windows now.
I think I did see that.
Yeah.
I think I saw like a pie chart and it showed that
That's
Windows
in
was a little
15,
less.
16 years that happened. So imagine another 15 years from now where it's going to be at the growth rate that we're seeing. And that's just one company. Sony's doing incredible. Nintendo's obviously doing incredible. They can't keep their stuff on the shelves.
Yeah,
so
massive industry.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's very
and
healthy.
You think about Microsoft, I mean, Windows is Microsoft.
It is, yeah.
That's, everybody who didn't know that they knew what Microsoft was, they knew what Windows was. And you have the gaming division surpassing
starting
that,
to beat it. Yeah.
Which is crazy. And then you got people saying like gaming's dying, consoles are gone. It's like, I don't know where you get your information.
Well,
because
those people are going to hide for a while. So.
Yeah.
We'll hear them again in the next 3 or 4 years.
We won't see them for a little bit. So gaming as a whole is expected to be between $100 and $110 billion this year.
Yeah.
And I believe they're on track to the 110.
I believe so, yeah.
Which is crazy.
If the percentages are correct, then that should happen.
Yeah, that's amazing. In Microsoft, talking about their earnings, they said $1.66 billion on gaming for last quarter for just Microsoft.
Yeah.
So that's pretty
And we would
impressive.
like to discuss some of Sony's numbers and Nintendo's numbers. They just don't seem to release those very often.
At the same time, yeah.
We get them like quarterly.
Yeah.
And then it's always combined with some other things that seem to be slightly contradictory, so it's hard to tell exactly what's going on with all three platforms. But like we just said...
that would be so cool if they would all drop
If Sony's winning NPD, if Nintendo can't keep their stuff on their shelves, and if Microsoft is posting numbers like that, we're talking about billions, then they're all doing incredibly well.
Yeah, and Microsoft is, 1.66 for Microsoft, and it's a smaller chunk of Microsoft's business than it is of Sony's business. Sony's also in a lot more markets.
Yeah.
Sony is internationally in
far more
an
markets.
Exceptional number of markets. Yeah. And so what's interesting is it's, the companies are pushing their earnings toward gaming. Yeah. Like they're actually starting to put their eggs in that basket. Definitely. Maybe not even starting to, but continuing to. Nintendo did release quarterly results not very long ago. It was a few weeks ago. And they reported incredible growth. They reported incredible sales numbers. What Nintendo doesn't do, and I wish all the companies, like I said, I wish they would all drop the numbers at the same time and put them in the same way. Microsoft puts,
that'd be nice.
Yeah, exactly. Microsoft, and they don't do it in the same way. Microsoft puts out, these are the chunks of our business. Here's where our revenues are coming from, which is really cool to see because that's where you find out about gaming.
Yeah.
Sony typically puts a little bit of info as to what their film division is doing, and then kind of general company other than that. Nintendo doesn't give breakdowns. So obviously Nintendo is only really gaming. Yeah. So their earnings are a little bit more clear. But they don't give a lot of where their money is coming from. So it would be really interesting to see all of that. NPD gives us a little of that, but I think we could both agree NPD is progressively getting less accurate as time goes on because of digital and all of the other complications to being able to gather that data. So I guess what we know for sure is the industry is booming.
Yeah,
it's
incredibly
not going to
healthy.
go away anytime soon. That's it on NPD. We don't need to repeat the games and things like that because it really hasn't changed a whole lot. Did you get a chance to do anything with the Destiny beta?
Yeah, I went ahead and downloaded the beta and played it a little bit. My initial reaction was it does feel very old, and I know I've said that kind of thing before. Yeah. Just the mechanics alone, like I remember those exact same mechanics from like Halo 1, and in particular, like you hit the jump button, and in Halo 1 people used to make fun of this for that particular title, but you would jump, and it just takes you a while. You're kind of like in the air, and then you land eventually. You can like throw a grenade. You can look around during that entire process. And that's how Destiny is. It immediately feels like they ported... It's the same developer. It's Bungie. They made both games. Yeah. They basically ported their control schemes and their gameplay mechanics and their control mechanics from Halo.
From the original.
Yeah, which, back in the day, they used to refer to that as 30 seconds of fun. They used to say, as they analyzed their own game and why it was so popular, even they were taken kind of caught off guard by Halo being so big.
Yeah.
And they were like, it's that 30 seconds of fun. People just want to repeat the same 30 seconds over and over and over again for the entire game. And back then, they were absolutely right. That is what we were looking for. We were looking for 30 seconds of fun over and over again. Now, though, things have advanced a little bit more. Definitely. Gameplay mechanics have advanced a little bit more. You can do a lot more complicated things when you have 4 shoulder buttons and all of the face buttons and 16 inputs. And if you hold this thing down, now you've got 32 inputs. So people are looking for a more complicated experience. They're looking for not just 30 seconds. They're looking for a minute and a half, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Some of the things we were talking about Dragon Age and stuff like that. Some of the things that you can do in that game, you can take 15 minutes trying to execute, like closing a rift. Like the complications that can arise while you're trying to close a rift. Yeah. And there's all kinds of other things in all these other games. The Witcher 3. Some of the things in The Witcher 3 you can get lost in for an hour.
Yeah.
So it's no longer about that 30 seconds of fun anymore. It's not enough. You need to advance it beyond then, and they haven't. It just feels old. And graphically, when I was looking at it, they obviously added some new effects. They've got like rain effects. It hits the screen now. I liked that back in the early 360 days. That was nice. Mm-hmm. Now we're adding that in the year 2017 to this game.
And it doesn't carry the same.
Well, it's like I said, it was that's from the 360 and PS3 days. They've got like fire effects now. Things are on fire all the time. Mm-hmm. Again, that's old. Yeah. They've got like flags waving and all of that new stuff. So you're getting a bunch of new effects. They've actually dialed it back though, so there's less players on the strikes and the multiplayer action. There's a few other things they dialed back. So they took some things away to give you some things that look like they're flourishes to try to make the game look a little better. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't look like a next-gen game to me. It doesn't look like a 2017 game to me at all.
Yeah.
So I'm not impressed with it. Like I said, though, it didn't hold my attention. I was only able to play it for an hour and a half to 2 hours or so, and I didn't want to do it anymore. I also was checking out my friends list to see who else was playing. Everybody was playing the beta. Mm-hmm. It looked like a lot of people.
When it launched.
Yeah, when it launched, when it was available. So a lot of people probably pre-ordered, or they bought their code, or they got it free, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I noticed very quickly, I kept checking throughout the 2 hours I was playing, and less and less people were playing. And eventually there was only 2 people, and then nobody was playing it. Yeah. So I feel like, just gauging that off of only my friends list, I don't have a lot of friends, but well over 100, a lot of people are probably feeling the same way.
Fall off.
Yeah, as I do.
Yeah. So I am not a Destiny person. Mm-hmm. I don't ever want to try to become a Destiny person. So I didn't play any of the beta. Mm-hmm. I did see some captures and I did see some feedback and followed the hashtags and everything. And what I noticed is there was a lot of, it's cool, but that was all people would say. So there wasn't something that was exciting.
The hype isn't very strong.
The hype is not very strong. Yeah. They're like, oh, yeah, cool. I just finished playing Rise.
Yeah, you're working through your backlog.
Yeah, so I'm working through my backlog.
So what do you think of Rise?
So Rise was amazing. Mm. And if I kind of compare that, obviously they aren't the same kind of game, but if I kind of compare that to Destiny, I felt like Rise, which is really an old game, that's why I haven't played it before, is almost crisper than what Destiny 2 is rolling out as. Yeah. And that's really crazy.
If you play Rise
and the mechanics too.
Oh yeah, definitely. If you play Rise on a QLED or an OLED or one of the really high quality screens that does like HDR and things like that, it just looks incredible.
It's incredible. It does not look, and it was ahead of its time, so it does not look like a game from its era, but then Destiny 2, from what I've seen, and I haven't experienced it firsthand, but seems to be,
Well, to be fair to the Destiny guys, the Bungie group that's working on those games, I'm always obviously bashing them because, I've heard so much from so many people about people that work for that company that I am a little biased. I'll admit that about that. Yeah. But to be fair, they are using a really bad engine. There was an article put out a few years back on, I want to say it was Game Informer, might have been one of the other sites or magazines, but that engine is really tough to use and really tough to implement changes and new things. So they really just need to throw it away, and I feel like they've made some huge mistakes since they went the direction they did with Activision, and I feel like that engine in particular just needs to be thrown away. They need to adopt something new for whatever they're going to do in the future.
Which is interesting because some of the feedback I've heard is, geez, there's just not anything new. A lot of people, I guess, were expecting a new character, a whole new, class, and that didn't happen. And there's not much new in the way of weapons, although it seems like from what I've heard, they've added weapon slots and it's almost too complicated. So they're adding, things that are maybe easy to add. And then they're not adding the things that are a little bit harder to add, which would make sense with the older engine.
Yeah.
So two things on Destiny. They confirmed an extension to Tuesday on the beta. Any theories as to why?
I don't know why they would do that. It might have been something they planned all along, or it could be that they didn't quite get enough numbers and data that they were looking for off of whatever they're getting from this. So if maybe people weren't playing it enough, that might be an indication.
Or weren't playing it through. Maybe they couldn't see that second part. So
that's
now
true.
People will
Yeah, it
push
could
a
be
little
that.
All I keep seeing is harder, more aggressive testing.
Yeah.
And I don't, I haven't heard that in a beta recently. There's always the second beta or the third beta, and that's when they're doing that. So I wonder if they either had a lot of people fall off and, they could see how the beginning was going.
Probably.
Because I think they also said they're opening a new area with doing that.
I didn't hear that.
If I heard correctly. I saw something on Twitter, I think it was, where it said they're going to open up like one more area. So that could be what that is. They did confirm what you said last week, which is you cannot bring your stuff over.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
So, and that's really interesting because, that was...
But you can still enjoy those items in Destiny 1. So you pay for...
They literally made a statement.
You pay for Destiny 2, and then you got to go back to Destiny 1 to enjoy that.
But you will not have your stuff taken away from you in your Destiny 1 game.
So they're doing you a solid there.
So that is a big favor.
Yeah.
Enough to make sure they mentioned it and made it the last point in the article.
That
so that was
funny.
hilarious. Obviously, I'm going to have my Destiny 1 stuff. Duh. So there's a lot of people saying, that you don't ever get that when you get a sequel. You don't get to bring your character.
Yeah, I saw some damage control, which was funny.
Yeah. But let's all be honest. Destiny is different.
Yeah.
With the thousands of hours that you specifically put into Destiny, the timed missions you have to do for Destiny, it's just different. That's just not...
This is one where they should have made that a possibility.
That should have been, So if Mass Effect ports over your character design, then Destiny most certainly should bring over. And your decision-making, so that's it on Destiny. I guess more to be seen from what comes from all of that.
Yeah.
Kind of a mediocre response, some technical issues. Apparently they're doing some more aggressive testing. That's it, right? We didn't miss anything.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. There was the San Diego Comic-Con, bunch of new trailers for lots of things. It's kind of weird. I guess I'm getting kind of used to seeing these really huge trailers that are really long and show tons of the movie or tons of whatever it is.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm just not impressed at all with any of that stuff anymore, and I hate that. And so
no more excitement for you.
After this, I'm just not going to watch this stuff
You're
anymore.
Just done.
I'm just going to wait till it comes out in the theaters and watch the whole movie and be surprised by the thing, whatever it is. The only one I really liked was the Walking Dead one. And
that was good.
Specifically tied to what I just said, because they didn't show anything.
They
showed
show us
5 minutes of
anything.
Content, almost. It was like 4 minutes, and showed nothing, which was awesome.
All very random, quick edits.
Quick little edits, yeah.
Lots of action, which, it's The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So you can't tell what's going
happening.
on.
You don't know who's getting shot. You don't know who just got eaten.
Which
you don't know
is
any
so
of that
cool.
stuff. There was only 2 shots that we can really even talk about. Was one of them, you see Shiva being surrounded by walkers. So that doesn't look good. But then at the very end, they did their time jump to the future. And you see what looks like old man Rick, essentially.
Yeah,
he looks a lot
many years older.
Yeah. And the well, I don't want to talk about spoilers, but essentially, we know what's going to happen there if you've read the graphic novels and you understand what's going on with that.
Yeah.
So that's going to be really exciting to see how they handle that in the show.
Yeah.
And it looks like All Out War is only going to be like the first 8 episodes or so if they're doing that already, because that's all they've filmed so far. So that was really cool. That was the only thing I really liked. So
Yeah, that trailer was really good. We will probably do a video on that trailer on the other channel. So that was exciting to see. It was nice that they did it differently because you're right on, there's always these trailers that they show every big scene, but they mix them up in order to try to make you think something totally different happens. But ultimately it still ends up spoiled. So that was really cool that they did that way. This is an excellent time to get back into The Walking Dead.
Yeah, definitely. Really. Well, it's an excellent time also for the people that aren't liking the show anymore to jump off. They told the story that Robert Kirkman originally intended. They've told that story of, you get to Alexandria and eventually they start rebuilding society. Yeah. So now, if you're not digging season 6 and 7, if you didn't think that was better than everything else you've ever seen on television, I'd say that's a great point to jump off the train and just stop watching. There's just no reason to continue because they're only going to do more of what they did in 6 and 7.
They're going to accelerate these last 2 seasons.
Yeah, they're going to delve deeper into story building. That's what the show does. Yeah. A little bit less, zombies getting their face chopped off or someone getting their brains blown out or heads chopped off and stuff like that. A little bit less of the ultra violence and the gore and things, and more, real story development.
Walking Dead is really about character and story development, and the people who are really big fans, I think that's why that's why I'm a really big fan.
Out of the 100% of people that watch it, I'd say only 10% of the people that watch it should watch it. I think there's a lot of people that watch it that it's not for. They make television for you. There's tons of, horrible, gory deaths happening on HBO every single day. Yeah. So...
But there's so much philosophy in The Walking Dead, which I'm really excited to start our Walking Dead video series, which will be on the other channel, just G4G, so that, it doesn't cloud up our gaming channel. But I am excited to go into that series because there's so much philosophy to discuss in The Walking Dead. Definitely. So really, that's the only exciting thing to come out of Comic-Con.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So now we sit and we wait for Gamescom.
Yeah, it's coming up here pretty soon. So
it's coming pretty quick. It'll pass by pretty quickly. Probably get some leaks going pretty soon. So excited to see what they do for Gamescom for sure.
Definitely, yeah.
And we will be doing coverage throughout Gamescom as well. Are we missing anything?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's it?
Yeah.
So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Share it with your friends. Thanks for watching.